The biggest question heading into Sunday's game against the Dallas Cowboys may not be what we should expect from Zach Wilson, but what we should expect from offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett. I'm Glenn Norton with JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. So Aaron Rodgers, of course, officially done for the year. Zach Wilson now under center. Nathaniel Hackett calling plays. Now, Nathaniel Hackett, and you can see behind me the story, it's on the front page of JetNation.com right now, talked about how Hackett is a guy who, when he was hired, anybody who remembers, anyone who's been a fan of this team long enough and recalls the early 2000s when Nathaniel Hackett's father, Paul, was the offensive coordinator, you kind of cringed when you heard Hackett will be running the offense because those were not good years. Those offenses underachieved. Those offensive had some really impressive weapons and were generally middle of the pack. And a lot of it, many felt, had to do with the offensive philosophy, which was keep everything sort of every throw down, every throw was kind of within 15 yards of the line of scrimmage. Very, very few deep shots, heavy run game, and the staple that drove Jets fans crazy was the third down draw plays. It didn't matter if it was 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 15. You knew it was a draw play. You watched those games, and you felt like Hackett and Herm Edwards believed that the team to punt most wins. Herm Edwards once famously said, "Punting is a good thing." And I understand it can be. It's better than a turnover, but it shouldn't be your goal. Shouldn't come into the game and think, man, if we can punt a dozen times today, we're set. And that's how it often felt when Paul Hackett was in charge. So now we have Nathaniel Hackett, okay? Fans, when he was hired, a lot of people kind of cringed, but you thought, you know what? If you're hiring this guy because Aaron Rodgers might follow him, it's worth it. And Aaron Rodgers followed him. And you didn't care that he was the offensive coordinator because you knew that Rodgers knew the offense inside and out. He would be heavily involved in coming up with a game plan every week. He would have full autonomy in the huddle on the field, change plays from whatever he wanted if he didn't like what he was seeing. So Hackett was almost a sidekick uh, in the minds of a lot of Jets fans. Otherwise, I don't see how anyone who endured the Paul Hackett years would have been okay with this hire. Well, now Hackett's not the sidekick. Hackett's not the 50-50, we're in this half and half. Hackett's the guy. And yes, Zach will have freedom at the line of scrimmage. He's not going to have the knowledge of the offense the way Rodgers does. He's not. He's not as good a player as Rodgers is. So while yes, Zach Wilson's development is highly important here, so is the play calling, and so is the approach. So what should we expect on Sunday against the Cowboys and for the next few weeks? Look at this past Sunday when Zach Wilson came in the game and you kind of get an idea. I watched that game and felt like, a lot of it was a Paul Hackett offense because you were, no shots down the field. Everything ultra conservative. But you could look at that and say, you know what? Zach didn't get starter reps. This is just, you know, uh, ball control, time of possession battle, all that stuff. Score enough points to win the game. Don't give the kid a shot to lose the game for you. Fine, that's understandable. But now this Sunday against the Cowboys, we need to see, is this going to be another another game where it looks like the Jets are trying to win 13-10 or 16-13, or are they going to take shots down the field and let Zach Wilson throw the football? And I don't mean every throw has got to be a deep ball, but mix some in. You got to keep a defense honest. You got to keep defenses off balance. That was one of the things that was so frustrating with Paul Hackett, is you felt like the defense, and I believe Ed Reed, or I think it was Ed Reed, said after playing the Jets one time, you just kind of knew everything was going to be inside of 15 yards. You didn't have to worry about the deep end back end of the field. So what's Hackett going to do? He's got the running backs, right? Look at the way the Jets played this past week. Look at the way they ran the ball. Look at Zach Wilson, the way he played. I've had some back and forth on Twitter with several people for weeks now because I've done a couple of videos. I did a preseason video, then I did one later in the preseason a week or two ago saying Zach Wilson is better than he was. And I talked about this the other day as well, and he is. And if you're watching Zach Wilson right now, this past Sunday, and you're convincing yourself, telling yourself he's no better than he was before, I don't know what to say. I really don't. It's clear as day he has gotten better. The the biggest factor that I've mentioned a few times now, and mentioned it again the other day, is Zach hanging in the pocket and making throws with pressure in his face. That didn't exist previously. So that's a big step. That's an important thing. You can't have an NFL quarterback that can't hang in the pocket and take a shot and make a throw. And we saw him do that a couple times the other day. That's a big deal. The short stuff, the easy stuff that Robert, remember, think back to last year when Robert Saleh said, make the easy stuff look easy. And Zach Wilson had a hard time with that for a couple of years. And even last year when it looked like he got it, he regressed. But this past weekend, against Buffalo, you saw him throw, and as I just mentioned, Hackett, it was a lot of short stuff, a lot of swings, a lot of screens, and Zach Wilson didn't see running backs having to, contort themselves to catch what should be easy passes. They were catching the ball in stride, and the plays looked the way they should look. Now, if you're lining up every Sunday and you can't do that, then your offense is going to be what the Jets' offense was last year, going a month without scoring a touchdown. So those are two huge things that Zach Wilson has done. That because I think we get so caught up in fantasy football and highlight plays that fans feel like if it's not a 60-yard bomb and if he's not throwing for 400 yards, well then he must suck. Because look at these other guys. I played a guy in fantasy this week and he had Tua and Tua threw for 422 or whatever he threw. Zach must suck. Like no, it's not just about the box score. It's about moving the ball, winning football games. But the Jets can't. It's not a sustainable approach. You can't ask this defense to go out and give up one touchdown every week. Like it's the modern day NFL. Teams are going to score, and the Jets can't be that team that's going to lose every time they give up 19 or 20 points. They've got to put some points on the board, make some plays, and I think with some of the explosive players the Jets have, like I want to see what happens with Izzy Abanikanda. I really thought he was a guy with Aaron Rodgers. As much as I liked Izzy, I thought, well, he's probably going to get buried on the depth chart now because they just don't have, they- they're not going to have enough rushing attempts to get everybody involved. Well, now if you go, as much as some of us hate to hear the term, if you go ground and pound, or let's just say you go heavy run, like let's say the Jets are going to run it 60-65% of the time and move the ball. Like that's a situation where you might say, you know what, there will be enough carries. We will be running it enough to get a guy like Izzy involved. And now you have another sub 4.40 guy. Hell, Izzy sub 4.340 guy in this offense to create explosive plays along with Brees Hall and Dalvin Cook. So it's going to be interesting to see the personnel groupings. I'm sure you saw by now if you go back and rewatch the game, it was noticeable during the game. You rewatch it, you notice how often the Jets went with three tight ends. And you know, I said during the game, I said right after the long Brees Hall run, the 83 yard, the two things that jumped out at me, fantastic block from Ruckert, and Wilson not, Wilson celebrating too early. But Ruckert looked fantastic as a run blocker. And the thing that I come back to is we've talked about how this is the first time Mekhi Becton and Elijah Vera Tucker are playing side by side. Those guys are monsters. Look, as long as Becton's healthy, he's a monster. AVT's a monster, and Ruckert, in his very limited playing time as a pro, has shown that he can be a force as a blocker. So, as far as I'm concerned, have those three guys on the right side and just pound the ball all day. And when you do let Zach Wilson throw it, and I mentioned this the other night with Chris Schubert and Dylan Terman, think back to the Jets playoff game against the Bengals when they ran it, 40 some times, and Mark Sanchez threw it like 17, and it just run it, run it, run it. But then when you throw it down the field, make the defense have to account for it. And that's what we got to see if Nathaniel Hackett does this week. And again, I'm not saying 12 deep shots down the field. Two or three, like something early to show the defense you're willing to let your guy throw it a little bit, and then sprinkle a couple more in throughout the game. And if you hit them, keep trying them. And if you're not hitting them, fine, go with the more conservative game plan. But I just know there are a lot of Jets fans who don't want to see another Hackett offense where it's third and long draws all day. Basically you give yourself two chances at the first down and punt because that was the staple of the Hackett offense. Run, run, run pass, whatever. But if it was 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, draw, punt, draw, punt. You felt like it was a two-down offense, and you can't do that in today's NFL, and you can't hamstring Zach Wilson. If you're gonna try to find out if this guy can play, which is what you should be doing, and not trying to hide him, or at least, if you wanna go conservative to limit mistakes, fine, but you can't just never have him throw the ball down the field. So, we gotta see Zach Wilson throw the ball down the field a little bit. We gotta see this offense operate at a level that can keep them competitive, winning football games against, we know there's a tough stretch on the schedule right now. And as I said the other night with Dylan and Chris, this is Zach Wilson's opportunity to show he can play. I don't think the Jets should be going out trading for anybody right now. I mean, if you want to go that you should be going after a vet free agent for depth, obviously. But in terms of finding a new starter, I think you give Zach Wilson the next four weeks, 5 weeks, and see how he does. If he shows he can carry the team and he can win some games and you can win with him, then you stick with him. And if he doesn't, then you got the trade deadline coming up, and then you go out and you get yourself a vet quarterback on a team that's willing to move their starter. So for me, for my money, that's the best approach. Is see what Zach can do because again, he has gotten better. I A lot of folks don't wanna hear it. They decided at whatever point in Zach's career that they don't like him and nothing he does is gonna be worth acknowledging, and, nobody's saying he's a superstar, just saying he has gotten better. So Zach's gotten better, that's huge. We gotta see what happens with Hackett, and we gotta see the run pass, distribution in terms of how the Jets approach it and whether or not they're trying to hide Zach or they're gonna show some confidence in him and let him throw the ball down the field a little bit. Big game against Dallas, great front. Great defense. We saw them shut the Giants out to open up their season. But the Jets have some playmakers, and we saw that. Brees Hall, monster performance. Garrett Wilson, get him the football. Uh, Cook looked better than I thought he would, although the box score didn't reflect it. And again, if you can get Izzy Abanikanda involved, and Mecole Hardman, I think Hardman probably only played a couple snaps because once Rodgers went out, it was like, well, Aaron loves throwing the deep ball, but our deep threat, we don't need him now because everything's going to be conservative. So we'll see how they approach it. We'll see how Zach Wilson does. The kid has gotten better. Let's see if he can make some more progress. Try not to turn the ball over. Come away with a win in Dallas. That'll do it for this one, Jets fans.